privileged to have Reindolf Chamba being the one that will be delivering our webinar for the day. So Reindolf, he's a computer scientist, computer science specialist, which is a computer scientist, I suppose. He's also a cybersecurity enthusiast. He holds a high national diploma in computer science and a degree in information technology. He has about 8 years experience working and teaching courses and developing software for individuals as well as organizations. There's a lot more to know about this esteemed young man we have today. He's also served as a mentor and facilitator for a Young Men's Christian Association and as well as Youth Challenge International. He has also volunteered and awarded Volunteer of the Year in Ghana for demonstrating characteristics of a global citizen with willingness to act for equity and sustainability. And he also serves as a role model and agent in his community. So as a sidebar as well, he is not all tech. He also has some hobbies. He likes to go for swimming and play eight-ball pool. He also likes answering questions on Quora. I actually find that interesting. But thank you so much, Reindolf, for presenting our webinar today. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Alpha Pockrell. He is our host for this webinar. I mean, she is our host for this webinar, pardon me. So she's in the background making sure that our webinar runs smoothly. I see that we have a couple more attendees that have joined us. Welcome, Daniel, Elijah, and Maxwell. Nice to see you here. So I will give it over to Reindolf so that we don't waste any more time and he can get started. Hopefully we have some in as we move. Reindolf.
Right. Thank you, Melissa, for that intro. It's quite a pleasure meeting everyone. Though I don't have the participants list, but I want to say welcome to everyone for today's webinar. And as Melissa already said, I am a cybersecurity enthusiast. So what that means is that as much as I enjoy content around cybersecurity, I also go about evangelizing it in terms of having this webinar. I mean, helping colleagues, peers to understand this is 21st century, and everything is now, as we said, we are in the digital world in that sense. So I feel that it's very good and a good initiative to get yourself involved, to learn the nitty-gritties of cybersecurity, understand, even as an everyday user, how do you, work around securing your data, your stuff. That's very important. And so today's webinar, we are going to look at some of the pros and cons. We'll be looking at myths, we'll be looking at challenges, advantages, and so much. But this is actually a two-in-one kind of topic. And so I'll try as best to treat the cloud tools and then come and then look at cybersecurity in the way forward. And then I think I'll be very much appreciative as during the section, your questions, your comments will come, and then our moderator, Melissa, can read them out, we can pause. There's also going to be an interactive, it's going to be interactive. So without further ado, let's jump into today's section. Thank you very much once again, moderator.
You're welcome, Reindolf. We are all really excited to be here.
Right. Yeah, so I'm actually sharing my screen, and this is going to be a blended kind of webinar. I'm not just going to do the talk. I think it's better we kind of give you some kind of material to follow along. And I also believe at the end of the section, you get materials related to the references or links, useful links if you want to go more, delve more into cybersecurity or the cloud tools, and that I'll be actually talking about. Yeah, so this in brief, our objectives, as I earlier on said, we're going to look at concepts, we're going to look at the pros and cons, we're going to look at challenges. In fact, we are zooming into almost all the spheres of cybersecurity, but then this is in a non-technical way possible. As much as the topics are broad in themselves, taking cybersecurity is a whole topic or a career-focused topic on its own. Cloud tools or cloud computing is also a whole career focus course on its own. But then we're able to look at a comprehensive, crisp understanding of some of the core concepts. And then we also look at the threats that affect the cloud. So we'll be looking at a few things like phishing. When you hear phishing, attacks, malware, and all that, what are these? How do we as individuals, how do we protect ourselves, mitigate some of these threats? And then I think we are going to have an interactive section where there will be a 5-minute activity. All right, I think I got, let me just give me a sec on this. Let me get the, so I will share, someone just notified me on this. I think I'll get back. That's a quick one. Thank you very much. Yeah, so with the notes, I have a complete script of the presentation, and I'm going to share that script to all participants as well. We discussed it during the team section, so please keep note. I think that's going to help us in the long run as well. So just give me a sec. Let me reshare this. And all right. Yeah, so my feedback is, I think, yes, this is fine. So we are looking at an activity, a quick activity for all participants to, embrace the beauty of security and some of the ways we can, protect ourselves from cyber threats. So we looked at cloud. I think this is the first topic. I feel the topic is cybersecurity and cloud, but I feel that it's good and we get to understand what the cloud is and all that before we can zoom in into cybersecurity and then look at how we can protect ourselves as individuals. Now, there's going to be a section, and this section is talking about myths or misconceptions of the cloud. I feel this is paramount at this point in the presentation because I would want to believe most of us, some of us have an idea of what the cloud is. But then we are always, once we have an idea, we are always battled with the myths surrounding it. And so it makes it difficult for us to embrace it fully. But then these myths, as in quote, are myths. So we demystify them, we get to understand them and appreciate fact that cybersecurity, cloud systems are in to stay and they've been with us all this while. One of the myths is that cybersecurity, I keep coming with cybersecurity, but that's fine. The cloud is a fad, and this is not true. We can realize the fact that for all of us who have been using some form of emailing system, like Dropbox, companies who rely on this are actually using the clouds. So the cloud is not a fad, it's with us. It has come to stay. And so this is one of the myths. And then the cloud is also riskier. We'll talk more about this. Cloud computing It's expensive. Yes, this is questionable, all right? Regarding why it is expensive, we look at that. There's a caveat to this very myth, why we think that cloud computing or cloud tools are expensive. Then there's another myth talking about how unreliable cloud is. I think during the presentation, the course of the presentation, we get to understand, appreciate the beauty of the efforts cloud service providers put in place to make sure that the cloud is a very well reliable and secure place to get your services. Now, what at all is a cloud? When we say the cloud, what is it? And in my little dispensation, you realize that I have been able to come out with an infographic, right? And this infographic, we see a cloud in here, we see a cloud in here, and surrounded by a lot of tools. So we can actually look at these tools as the services, right? So these tools we see a game console, we see a wireless connectivity, we see an iPhone. In fact, so in its simple sense, the cloud is just a real place. In fact, it's a real place, a physical place, right, that is accessed over the internet. So here, we are interested in the service, right? And so this service, by way of computing, information technology, that service is rendered to us, but via the internet. So the cloud in itself is just a physical place. And so we'll be able to demystify what this cloud is as we advance, progress with the presentation in this series. Now, what the cloud is, we will look at a few terms. So in our dispensation to explain, to understand the cloud, we look at what the cloud computing is. With cloud computing, we look at it as a subset of the cloud. And what I mean by subset, I mean a section of the cloud. So it means that with this pictorial, what we see, this infographic, a lot of things happen when we talk about the cloud. But when we talk about cloud computing, we are looking at a web-based or an internet-based service, all right, to individuals or organizations. And these individuals make sure to use resources. They utilize what? Resources. So these resources can be simple applications like Gmail, or a simple messaging app like Facebook Messenger, or even an advanced something. And as I said, I'm going to make sure that we understand from a non-technical view. So as much as the concept is a bit technical, we'll be looking at how we can break it down and understand it in an everyday life or in a non-technical way possible. Now, what cloud isn't? Okay, so we've looked at the cloud and we said the cloud is a real thing, it's a physical thing. All right, the cloud, and now what I mean by physical, it means that it's something that is tangible. You can actually see and touch it. But then again, we'll dive more into it, why it is real, why it is physical. And so we'll look at what the cloud isn't, what is not the cloud. Now, in our infographic, we see an old PC. In fact, in the traditional days, before the event of the internet, there was that nostalgic moment where we use computers, right? Our businesses, our parents, I mean, they use computers. But then again, these computers were not connected to the backbone of the internet. So even if they were just used for basic, simple services, all right? But the times have changed, as we look at in the preceding presentation, where now most of our tools and services that we use, whether as a corporate organization, have moved onto the cloud. So here I use the cloud again, as I said, demystifying what this cloud is as we progress. So in the traditional way of computing, we see computers, all right, this is an organization. But then these computers are only connected to themselves. They are not connected to the internet. They are not connected to other external, what we call it, devices out there, services. And so the cloud is actually gives that possibility for you to connect remotely. The word is remotely, where we are able to have access to a service. Once we use our Visa card or our credit card, we buy this service, or we use it as a pay as you go. I think we'll delve more into that. So basically, any program that runs on one computer cannot be a cloud service. So for instance, if I install this is a case, standalone software, this is a QuickBook application. You buy the disk, you install, and you run. Now, once I'm running this software on the machine, on a specific machine, I'm not really utilizing the cloud service because this is on a standalone. You get it? And so the cloud actually the cloud is not a standalone thing. It is not software sold in boxes. It's actually something you need to remotely have access to and utilize that service. Now let's look at the cloud in real life. Let's look at the cloud in real life. Now this is the cloud in real life. Okay, so over here we have infographics, pictures of the cloud. Now what we have here is called a data center. In fact, this is just a pictorial view of it. And this is the Facebook data center. What we see here are all what we call racks. And these racks have computers in them. All right, these racks have computers in them. They have computers in them and they are all connected. And they are working 24/7, providing some sort of service to individuals, to organizations, and all that, government, institution, and all that. And in one of these racks, we find the computer. So I think we are almost used to a computer with a terminal, keyboard, mouse, and all that. But this is actually, in fact, a computer. And this is actually slide inside one of these. And so we can have millions, thousands of computers actually in one data center, providing different kinds of services. So on my immediate left, I have the Google data center. This is also kind of housing a lot of computers. And these computers are actually providing services. And because they are not with you and you need to connect remotely to that service or to that computer, that term cloud is really comes into life. We connect it. Now the caveat is that there's a school of thought that when there was a school of thought here. So how do we term this whole connectivity of devices, gadgets, wearables, computers, network systems, and all that? How do we find a way to present it? And so the idea of the cloud icon came into being. So when you see the cloud icon, it basically represents network of devices, computers that provide services to others. All right, so that's basically it. Now, in advancing, we also look at the cloud model to get to understand in depth what the cloud also means or actually is. We look at the cloud model. Yeah, so this is the cloud model. Now, under the cloud model, we have 3 types of cloud. And for the purpose of our webinar presentation, we're only going to look at the topmost level, that is the SaaS in abbreviation. That's what we call the software as a service. So the other models, we are not going to really touch base on them because these are quite technical and beyond the scope of this presentation. But now, what actually is the SaaS or the software aspect of the cloud? Now, the software aspect of the cloud is just the ecosystem, the environment where all the tools and applications we use on a daily basis as individuals are hosted on or run. So we access them using this module or this architecture, the software as a service. And so in delving down into our presentation, we are going to look at the various services that cloud service providers provide us as users, as individuals. So when we look at the stack here, we say that we consume what? This, we use them. So emails, customer relation management, collaborative tools, and all that, enterprise resource planning. These are all tools that we use, and they are now hooked to the cloud. What that means is that They are running on someone else's computer, someone else's machine, and you need that service. So you subscribe, pay as you go, and then you can be able to use that service. And so this is basically what the cloud model is about. We have three types: the PaaS, the IaaS, and then the SaaS. The IaaS is the infrastructure, which we will not talk much. And then, so we'll delve in right into the SaaS, the software as a service. Now, what we have is the everyday tools or services we use on the cloud. Now, these are some of the categories. So we are looking at the arts, all right? We are looking at businesses. We are looking at data storage. We are looking at education. All these, the cloud is playing a big role. In fact, this is more like a disruptive role in it. We've almost all traditional computing processes that we did previously doing computers have now moved to the clouds. What it means is that cloud service providers are giving us these services. So whether you are in the arts, you are in the business, you are in the management, and even for entertainment, these cloud services are actually able to give us these tools, these services to use on a daily basis. So here we looked at health. So these are wearable, wear Apple Watch. You can wear it and then it will take your heart rate, it's able to tell how many calories you've lost a day and all that. And all this information is saved back to the cloud because the service is actually in the cloud. So once probably a health practitioner wants to have access to your data, he also have access to that data on the cloud. So tools like under social media, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Tinder, Apple Messenger, Instagram. For entertainment, we've heard of Netflix, we've heard of Apple Play, we've heard of SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube. These are all cloud tools that we use on a daily basis because the services are rendered by third parties, by cloud service providers. And so even for shopping, we have Amazon, we have Walmart, Alibaba, all these third-party vendors also utilize the cloud and provide us the service we need. Also under healthcare, which I talked about, Apple Watch, for instance, we are able to tell the calories we've burnt in a day, our heart rate and all that. We're able to take health data on us. And then under education, we have Office 360, where Microsoft has moved most of their Office tools onto the cloud. What it means is that they have set up a data center where they provide these services. So once you have your end or end device, a computer, laptop, a phone, an iPhone, you can just log on to that service and then you use and then you log out. It's as simple as that. So for personal storage, we have Dropbox, we have iCloud, we have Sandbox, SunSpace, Carbonite. These are all services that every day we use the cloud to use. For emails, we also have Gmail, Hotmail, and all of that. I'm not sure, moderator, at this point, is there any question for me so that we can pause for the next 1 minute to take questions if there are? Melissa?
Yes, I'm here, Reindolf. There hasn't been a question asked yet, except for a participant who find out if this recording will be made available after the session, to which I already responded that we are recording the session and we'll be able to make it available in less than a day or two for people to watch after the webinar. But I think that so far so good. I've already learned a lot of things that I used every day but had no idea about. So also to encourage our participants that any questions that are popping into your head, just type them in the Q&A section before you forget them. There's a question from Omala. Thanks, Brian, for asking. He says, are there any harmful effects of cloud use and data gathering on people?
Right. Yeah. So So I think with the event of computers and data, I mean, having data, sharing data to services, there is always that ethical implication of data breaches. So I think I want to really touch base now when we get to cybersecurity and how to merge cloud security. I think we will appreciate some of these interventions and some of these threats that can happen as a matter of fact as we use cloud. Yes, so there are challenges, there are ethical implications and all that. So I'm sure, yes, we'll advance, we'll zoom more into that in the subsequent presentation. So yes, whoever asks that should just hold on, we'll get there. Thank you.
Okay, Chamba, like you heard for yourself, hold your horses. He's getting to it. But thank you for asking the question. He will keep it in mind, and I will remind him if I feel like it's not answered. Right. So to our participants, again, thank you for being here. I'll let Reindolf go on.
Right. Yeah, so basically, all these services, since they are on someone else's computer and they are giving you this service, you just, appreciate the fact that you are using the cloud services. And the last I can also talk about the music, entertainment. So Pandora, we hear of, yes, under Spotify. These are all cloud music services that we enjoy on a daily basis. Then those who are into creative design, so Adobe products, Photoshop, After Effects, all these tools are made able using what? Cloud computing. As I said, cloud computing is just a way of providing services via what? The internet to businesses and individuals. And it's a subset of the cloud because the cloud is big. It's made up of many things. And so once it's a subset, we can also appreciate the fact that it's part of the bigger cloud ecosystem. Now, I've talked about CSPs and who are these cloud service providers. And so let's zoom into and appreciate who they are and then make some progress. Yeah, so these are a few of the, and these are actually, these persons you see here, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, these are all the top leading service providers when it comes to clouds. We will not actually break down to nitty-gritties, but yes, as I said, I have in-text reference and links I'll share to you. So I'll give that to the moderator and it will be shared to you after. And so you get to appreciate the efforts they are putting in. But they spend a lot of $1 million to put up these data centers, to put up these services for others to consume. And so these are the core major. There are more of them out there, but then I think this is fine. This is a very primer of who these cloud services service providers are. And so I think we can make some progress from here. Now, how does the cloud work? So we are going to take a basic scenario, Facebook Messenger. We're going to take a basic scenario, Facebook Messenger. How does that work? So I take my Messenger app and then I send hello to a friend and then he or she responds. Now, behind the scenes, the person may live miles away from me, but behind the scenes, a lot is going on. What happens is that the app is actually on my phone as a Messenger app. But what goes on behind the scenes, getting the message to my recipient, to my friend, goes through what we call the Facebook Messenger cloud. So they also have a system. So once I send, it goes through their system, their service, their cloud, and then they're able to take that data, all right, and then look at it. Oh, this data is going to Stephen. Well, it has all the information that needs to go to. So it's sent back to Stephen, and then Stephen receives it. It sounds as very simple as it is, but there's a lot of technicalities in it. But in the basic sense, when I'm using a cloud service, what it means is that anytime I send data or I request data, the cloud service or systems are able to process it according to how it has to be processed. So if it's music, I'm listening to music from Spotify. What happens is that the cloud is able to play back this music to me using my third-party phone or my app on my phone. So basically, it's like that. So it goes back and forth. So and here, as I said, a lot goes in. Though I'm just sending a simple message, a lot goes in at the back end or the background where a lot of things happen. My message or data is taken, processed by the cloud server, and then it moves it back to the recipient. So that's now basically, and for all cloud services, what we looked at for everyday cloud services, this is basically how they work. Now let's zoom in into advantages of the cloud. Advantages, this is very important. Let's look at a few points, we'll take a few points note on advantages of the cloud. Now, the cloud is more secure, in fact, compared to the traditional, where you think that, yes, security is a big deal when it comes to the cloud, but all cloud service providers, industries, organizations, companies, businesses pay a lot of bucks, pay a lot of money to make sure that data is secure, data is safe. And so in the course of the presentation, we are going to look at some information service processes that are put in place to make sure that our data is safe, our data is secured out there. And so, yes, the cloud, we also have rapid development. We have infinite storage. Now, I'm not sure if you send any message to someone on Facebook Messenger, you get an alert that the message box is full. No, that's how the cloud works. There is enormous amount of data storage. And in fact, for all that you do, you're actually going to enjoy unlimited data. So that's one other aspect of the cloud. And then let's also look at the availability of cloud services. In fact, it is almost 24/7, 99.9% available latency. It's always available. So as and when you log on to it or you utilize the service, it's available 24/7. There's no time constraints, there's no time restrictions. Now, the cloud is also able to maintain what we call maintainability or updates. Unlike the traditional software where once you need an update, you need to buy a new software upgrade. For the cloud services, they give you updates on the fly, on the go. Once there's a need to patch, maybe there is an issue, there is a cybersecurity issue, look at them, there's a vulnerability, the organizations or the companies, CSPs are able to patch and give you a new, what we call it, update. And so that's also another important advantage of using the cloud. Then let's look at a few challenges. We cannot talk about pros without the challenges. There are a lot of challenges out there with the cloud. And as Juma already asked, yes, one of the challenges is security and privacy. Privacy is a big thing when it comes to the cloud because there are a lot of other dynamics, key factors and indicators that are fighting against anything regarding data. And so we appreciate and raise some of the things we can do as individuals, what the organizations are already doing to safeguard data breaches, data theft and all that, malicious intent, hacker activities and all that. So we appreciate it in the next subsection. Yeah, so this ends my presentation on cybersecurity, clouds. And I think we can zoom in into cybersecurity and appreciate that as well. And at this point, Melissa, is there any question? Or I think I can take the second section and then come with the questions.
I don't see any questions in our Q&A as well as in our chat section, but I hope I'm not going to ask this question and sound silly. So like you give an example of Facebook that let's say I sent you a message on Messenger. That message bounces through a cloud service before it gets to you. Right. So in a sense, is this cloud that you said it's a physical space, is it automated to sift through messages, or there's someone that's actually employed to see that I am sending you some inappropriate material and then they stop it from getting to you?
Right, that's a very powerful question, Melissa. Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, so when it comes to data, so let's, as you said, Facebook, so we are looking at Facebook as a case study. Our data is out there, yes, for sure. And as much as the government and security agencies are up to task to be sure that, to make sure that our data don't go to the wrong hands, Facebook as an organization also put in much effort to safeguard our data out there. Now, there are a lot of technologies underlying, underneath the scene, behind the scenes, that have been employed. One aspect of computer security is what we call cryptography, where they need to protect and secure data. And so there are other things that come into play. We have what we call end-to-end security, where when I send you a message, even Facebook should not be able to know exactly what I sent you because you do not have the right means to decode that message. So we have what we call the end-to-end encryption. I'm sure we all use WhatsApp a lot, and when we send messages, sometimes we even see the end-to-end encryption message below it, and it says that this message you sent can only be seen by the other party. So there are a lot of, yes, every day. In fact, when it comes to cybersecurity, it's an everyday kind of venture where new threats come up, findings, new situations. And so there is a need for that collaborative effort. Governments, agencies, even the owners of the organization, how do we secure data? In fact, data in the wrong hands, you understand what that can be. And so they try as much. Now, when it comes to moderation, the second part of your question, most of the social sites we use are highly moderated because of their policies in place. So you cannot talk about hateful speeches, pornographic materials, and so they kind of moderate them. So when their data goes through their service, they have systems or even people who are able to go through moderation to make sure that this goes in hand with our policies, our what we call it, company policies, guide and rules. And so yes, it's actually a dicey and a very broad topic, and it all comes back to ethical implications, what they can do as my personal data. And so government and agencies come in to fight all the time. Recently, there was this issue with data and Facebook, and it's still something the American government is still looking at, not just American government, for the entire world, that our data is protected, into the wrong hands, and then we, the users, are also kind of safe, and we have that at the back of our mind. We are certain that our data doesn't go into that. So yes, so it was pretty much, I think we should embrace it more when we zoom into the cybersecurity section as well. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Reindolf.
Right, thank you too. Yeah, so talking about cybersecurity, this is a very big topic. And so as much as for this webinar, we try to make it quick and concise, we'll break down, and you have questions, please bring them, and then we can dissect and make more comprehensive meanings to some of the concepts. Now, these are some of the myths for cybersecurity. Now, we believe that only big companies or famous people are targeted. Yes, so we'll get to understand that this is not the case. Every day, vulnerabilities come. Programs are created for web, and they are scanning for loopholes. They are scanning for vulnerabilities. And so we shouldn't just think that only famous or big people are targeted. Your data can go into the wrong hands. And when I talk about data as an individual, what data are we talking about? It could be your bank account details, your credit card details. It could even be some sensitive document that you have. In fact, it could even be about yourself, maybe by way of your personal health. You don't need such information should go out to the rest of the world. And so just imagine some of this data goes into the wrong hands or the wrong entity. And so this is a myth that we should take our minds off. Cybersecurity is broad, and vulnerabilities, threats can come to anyone. Now, is this the antivirus would also always protect us? No, it's not always the case. We look at that. Threats are always external. No, some threats are very internal. We look at that. And I said, no one can figure out our password. Well, one activity that we have, we appreciate the fact that passwords are not just the only means to protect ourselves on there. To look at that. Now, IT departments are responsible for cybersecurity. No, common sense will tell you that cybersecurity also starts with you, the individual. In fact, when you go into any policy or organization, there are policies, there are SOPs, there are rules you need to follow. And so if you want to bridge any of them, sometimes it's even kind of you have to be laid off, but that's as simple as that. And so we look at the fact that it is not only the IT department that is responsible. We as individuals, as users, are also responsible for cybersecurity. Now, you know immediately if your system is compromised. It's not the case. Sometimes you can have a threat breach with your system, your tool, with your app, and you have no idea. And as and when, data is being pushed, they have access to, yes, hackers or malicious intentions are taken on that data. we also have never experienced a breach. Now, this is not the case. Sometimes, as I just said, might have a breach that the organization might have no idea of. We will look at what we call the zero-day threat and all that. So the question now comes in, what is cybersecurity? And so over here, we have computer security, we have online privacy, we have global secured securities, mobile security, antivirus, secure payments, surveillance, but all these come into what we call cybersecurity. And it's just a practice of protecting our systems, programs, and networks, all right? So we protect these from different sources, from different what we call it, actors, all right? And so if you are able to appreciate, practice cybersecurity, we'll delve into the threats that comes with it. We'll delve into the way the preventive measures as well. Now let's look at what cyber threats are regarding cybersecurity. So these are usually aimed at what? Accessing or changing or destroying sensitive information. Now, others can also look at it this way. Hackers, all right? They can, hijack a whole entire system, compromise a whole entire system. And there are case studies where a whole department, IT systems were compromised, hijacked. So we realize that it comes in all spheres of the computing angle, the cybersecurity world. Now, these are a few of the threats, all right, that we look at. So we look at malwares, we look at web-based attacks, we look at phishing. I'm going to actually talk in brief on some of these threats. In fact, there are so many threats out there. And so these are just the top 15 cyber threats. So we have identity theft, we have data breaches, we have government-recognized ransomwares. We have what we call the shadow IT, where even in the organization, somebody can have access, who has no authorization, have access to your resources and be using it. So they are kind of shadowing your IT resources. These are all threats. They pose as threats to us as individuals and organizations. Phishing, you receive an email, and from the email, at least then there's an attachment. You download or you click on this link and it takes you to a very spoof site. Maybe you think you are going to the right site and yet they are asking for your very critical, crucial data you provide. And this data is going to be stolen or is in the wrong hands. And so we need to be very careful about some of these threats. Another threat I would want to also talk about will be, so the malwares. So malwares are actually malicious codes. This can stem from viruses, botnets, rootkits. In fact, it's just an umbrella of threats or viruses or programs that cause havoc to a specific operation. So for instance, when your computer is infected by a virus, sometimes it becomes extremely slow, or your phone. Other times, because of the nature of the virus, maybe it's a worm, it replicates itself and then possibly steal your information. So there are a lot of some of these threats that cause havoc to our everyday usage. Now we have spear phishing or phishing, which I've talked about. So spear phishing is more of an advanced way of phishing. And this time it involves persons. So they establish contact with you, they establish that kind of, and then they are able to take havoc, go on with their exploit. And so these are new ways. So one of the spear phishing examples is what we call social engineering. In fact, where people can play on your mind, use mind tricks to get information. They can pose as employees of an organization, IT department heads. You can call you via phone, via emails and all that, and pose as different people or representing as personas. And then you also kind of believe them because they try to play on your mind psychologically. And so you tend to believe them and then fall victims to them. There was a case of Kevin Mitnick, who is now even a consultant to the American government. He could almost break into any system using even just social engineering, can pose as anyone. And so we look at some of these as external threats. As I said, cybersecurity is not only about external threats, there are internal threats. So unhappy employees, organizations, this could also cause or breach or bring about cyber threats. Now let's look at some of the sources of cybersecurity. So we have nations or states where two nations can actually be having that cyber war just to gain espionage, right? Just to gain access to sensitive data and information, infiltrate their systems, all right? We also have corporate spies, we have criminal groups. Their intention is to just wreak havoc. And so they can target the system, play around the system for so long. Sometimes the activities can span between months into years. And once their aim is achieved, they move on to the next target. We also have malicious insiders. All right, so an unhappy customer, sorry, employee, and cause havoc to the system, especially if they have access to the cybersecurity architecture or infrastructure. Now, without much ado, I cannot really talk about cybersecurity and information security without looking at what we call the CIA Triad. Now, this CIA is not the central intelligence we know. This is more of an information cycle to protecting data in an organization, in a business entity. And so here we have what we call the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality, we are looking at who has access to what in the organization. This data, who is privileged to have access to the data. And so who has that kind of restriction? How confidential is the data to the public or even to other employees? Who is mandated? And so we also have what we call the integrity. Under integrity, can this data be modified? All right, can this data be copied? How do we have an overall security around this data? So how is our data secured? So that integrity is, can this data be copied? If not, how do we secure it from being copied? Can it be modified in any way? So that is integrity. We also look at availability. I mean, how available, if the service is to be 24 hours and I'm getting 15 hours, is that availability? No. So we have to look at how available is this data or service to individuals or organizations. As I said, we cannot look at cybersecurity or in the information technology world without the CIA Triad. Now let's look at the last concept where we look at cloud security threats. So we looked at cloud, what a cloud is. We said the cloud is just a physical place made up of computers and services. These computers are providing services to individuals, to organizations, and these services are actually called software as service. And so once these services are being utilized remotely, there's the need to put in measures to secure them. I mean, to protect this data, to protect the data for organizations, data for individuals, and all that. And so these are some of the threats. In fact, we've seen some of the threats earlier, but we can revamp them. So email attachments, rootkits, system vulnerabilities, instant messaging, worms, and network attacks, spam, spyware. In fact, because of time, I cannot really talk about every nitty-gritty of these threats. But then, as I said, I'm going to share the resources with you, yes, the rest of the team, and then we all be on the same page and understand and then appreciate some of these threats and how we can prevent them. Now, we can't talk about the threats without how they should be prevented. And so, aside these threats, yeah, so we can have data loss, what we just looked at. We can have data breaches. We can have identity and management thefts, key management, phishing, malware, shadow. I talked about shadow IT earlier on. And we also have what we call distributed service, denial of service, where systems are actually going to stop working because somebody somewhere is making sure that they are putting a lot of load on that system. And so it hijacks the whole system. Nobody gets to use it until that is taken care of. We also have what we call the zero-day attacks or zero-day vulnerabilities. In fact, even companies, organizations, cloud systems, providers, sometimes do not have an idea that there is an imminent vulnerability or threat. It hardly happens because their signatures are not able to keep that information. So 0 days are days that you are there and then you just hear that there is a vulnerability. So immediately there should be a patch. And most of these cloud service providers or application service providers, they spend a lot of thousands of $1 million into securing our system. Sometimes they even hire testers to test their system for vulnerabilities, for loopholes, and pay them bounty hunters and all that, because they need to be sure that there are no 0 days, and even if they come, they have a way to mitigate it as possible or as soon as possible. So let's look at some of the preventive measures. So we have what we call password hygiene. All right, so how do we secure our logins, credentials? Well, the common sense will tell you, if you enter 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, obviously you're actually giving that, because I can just guess your 1, 2, 3, 4 password. And so tools and services are now putting in measures, rules. Sometimes when you are signing up on a service, they'll give you the requirement of that password, how it should be, the length and all that, the character sequence and all that. And so these are some of the things others, companies, organizations are putting in place. But for common sense purpose, we should also know that the stronger the password, the better. We also have what we call the activity defend against malicious codes. So we can also find a way to not open attachments. If this email is not addressed to me, and I keep on saying this, you need to actually check the email header where the me is. You drop down, if you are using Gmail, you drop down and see, is this mail actually coming from me? Is it coming from the intended recipient? If it's not, you spam it, you delete it, all right? And so some of these things, they are everyday things we need to really be abreast with. We need to also use antivirus software, updated. We don't just install it and forget about it. Yes, I have an antivirus, it's protecting me. We need to regularly update the signatures to be able to get the new threats that are emerging. We also have to be cautious against phishing attacks. As I said, we don't open emails and all that. If it is not a trusted source, we ignore it, delete it completely. We don't open emails and links and all that. Yeah, so these are some of the things we can do. Just to wrap up, we are going to do an activity. So please, if those who are using our phones or our laptops, I'll be happy if we can log on to this website. So it starts from https howsecureismypassword.net. So let's just in the next 5 minutes, let's see if we can have this activity. And I think I can also possibly use mine. I can share my screen and show you. Melissa, do you think I would share my screen, or participants can involve themselves with it? Which one would be the best?
I think maybe give us a minute or so to have that, right, to take that URL to copy it before you share, unless you're also copying it onto your screen, so right, we're able to, yeah.
Right, so I think I am putting it here in the chat. I'm going to run it, so I will reshare my screen and run it.
Okay, yeah, I think if you can copy it onto the chat, then share your screen, that will be awesome.
Yeah, so I have just sent the link. I hope it works. Right. Yeah, I think it works.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is just a simple tool that when you enter, please, before we use this tool, you shouldn't enter any of our passwords. We are just going to try with a few. So don't enter your critical password, please. Let's be cautioned. So let's just enter anything. So for instance, my password is 1234. I hope you can see what I have on my screen. Melissa, please, can we see what I have on mine?
I can see, yeah, I can. Do you still need us to use that URL? I don't see it in the chat.
Yeah, I just sent it to the chat. I just sent it to the chat.
Okay. I don't seem to, maybe if any of the participants can comment to indicate if they've seen the URL and are using it. Right. Because I can't see it.
Okay, so I think okay, so okay, just hold on 1 second. a lot of things are happening here. So I went direct, sent it to myself. Let me send to everyone. Sorry about that. My bad.
Okay, that's okay. I think we all haven't received it.
Yeah, so
yes, they it is. So I think we can all copy that. This should be a fun exercise for us to do. HTTP.
Okay, so I also have so as I said, please be cautioned. We should not type our password, sensitive password that we use. Let's just type any random password to test how this works. So for instance, I have a password and the password is 123456. How, when I enter this password, let's see how long any hacker can break or guess this password using any tool, brute force, dictionary attack. Let's look at that. So I'm entering 123456. So do we see that? When I entered 123456, it tells me instantly. So this password, if I have this as a password to a tool or to an app, it can be guessed within instance. So let's try combinations, right? Let's try combinations. So this time I'm still going to use only letters. First, I use the numeric. So here, let me say my password is A, B, C, D, E. It's also going to be instant. In fact, any tool or hacker can just guess this using tools, obviously. All right. But if I decide to add probably letters, all right, letters, so capital letter, number, okay, I add character, I add that. So you see that once I'm adding, the length is growing, it's taking more time to grow. So you see I have 2 years, you see 100 years. Now, let's look at what I have. I just enter random characters and it's telling me that any tool or computer can take what? 100 years to crack it. Now there are what we call persistent, advanced persistence, what we talked about earlier, where if hacker activities or a hacker group want to infiltrate or breach your system, they take days and months, even years, to use tools on them to guess. And so the stronger your system, your password is, the harder it will take for them to break. If my computer is going to take me 100 years to guess this password, it's like it's forever, right? And so we should be very cautious of the passwords we input when we are asked for password. And I want to believe there will be a second section in the future of this where I'm going to take the entire group. This one, I would have to take it to the WMI so that we learn how to use some of the good tools out there to have strong and manage strong password. Because the truth is that if the password is very strong, it will be difficult for me to even remember. So I need to find a way to manage it. So we have what we call password managers. So that every site I go, every service I use a different password. Now the caveat is that I have to use one password across all my sign-ons, log-ons, and a hacker activity is able to break into that and get it. They are also smart to know that if we try this on maybe their Gmail, it will work. If you try this on their Twitter account, it will work. If you try this on their bank access, portal, it will work. So the caveat is that we use different passwords to different services we use. We should not use one password, and then we should make sure that the password is strong. It has all the characters, different characters, it has numbers, it has capital letters, and what have you. Yeah, so I'm not sure, participants, I think this would be the end of my presentation. And later I'll put that if there are questions, look at them, and then we can wrap up today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Reindolf. I've enjoyed that activity because one of my passwords will be hacked after 9 million years, so I feel proud. Yeah, there's a couple of questions. There's one that popped in the chat. I'll just read it out. I think Victorina is having problems with her phone. She says that her, currently she has I'll just read it as it is. Hello, currently I have a mod in my phone, which I didn't know how it came onto the phone. It's called battery mode. So as soon as it reaches midnight, I won't be able to receive any calls. And when I try to cancel, it says it can't be disabled. I don't know if you can assist her.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So is this what when it's called battery mode, as soon as it reaches midnight, I won't be able to receive calls, and when I try. So I'm not sure, has she actually downloaded any app recently? And if not, I would be privileged to see that if she hasn't, and this also persists. So the question is, when she got the phone, was that happening? So what app has she installed? So I feel that maybe there is an app that is causing that. And so she should look at the apps that are not critical functioning app for her and then uninstall them and see if that problem persists. If it still persists, then I think she should back up her relevant documents, data, and then do what we call a factory reset of the phone, and that should be it. That should be. I'm not, because I don't have access to the device and the application, I'm not be able to give a specific workaround.
Yeah.
But I think she should try and uninstall most of the apps that she really
downloaded.
Yes, and then worst case, she can reset the phone. But then before that, she can save her document in the clouds as well, and then yes, and then get it back.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that response, Reindolf. I don't know if I can ask Victoriana. I don't see her on the participants, but maybe if she can come after the webinar so that you can assist her, if you're open to that. Perhaps you can share your email and phone number in the chat so that since this is like a personal issue with her phone, perhaps you can assist her outside the webinar as well, just in case the tips you've given now fail to work. So I'll say if Victoriana is still in, you can just take note of Reindolf's phone number and email address and maybe get in touch with him. There's also a couple of questions in our Q&A. The first one is from an anonymous attendee. Thank you for hiding your identity. One step into cybersecurity. So anonymous says, what does it mean to say an email address has been pawned? And secondly, is it safe to accept all caches? Is it as you surf the nets? I also have that question. Thank you, anonymous.
Okay, you said you also have which question, please?
The one for, is it safe to accept all caches? Please correct my pronunciation as you surf the net. But I guess we answered the first one, which says, what does it mean when it says an email address has been pawned?
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's also a security issue. That's also a security concern. Now, I think we'll look at a few caveats on what exactly you can do when you say you have been pawned, all right?
Yeah.
Now, this is a term, okay, and the meaning is not really known, but this is what happens. What's the word? I'm trying to find a very concise word. Now, you see, normally we have passwords, all right? And we know that I've already talked about some of these passwords, and some of them are very weak. So you type in and you realize that no, the password is weak. So the pawn in itself, right? Have I lost connection? Hello?
No. I can hear you clearly. I can see you clearly as well.
All right, okay, that's fine, thank you. Right. Yeah, so let me first look at the cache and then come back to the pawn.
Okay.
Now with the cache, I'm not sure, but it says accept all.
Yeah, I suppose it also means the cookies. I don't know if I'm still on because Reindolf has frozen. Alpha, can you jump in? Am I still on, or it's Reindolf's screen?
You were
I am on.
Director.
Okay, thank you, Alpha.
Yeah, sorry, I think I lost the connection.
Okay, That's okay, Reindolf.
Yeah,
I was just saying that with the catches, it must also mean the cookies when you open a website and they say accept all cookies before you start using the site. So is that safe or
right?
Yeah.
Right. So I personally, cookies are not bad. Cookies are not bad in themselves. What happens is that whenever you visit a site, you navigate. Okay, so you click on your interest, you move, you kind of serve around the website, all right, the content. And so what the cookie does is that it's able to track your exact activity on the site. So if you are interested in one specific, maybe artifact, it's okay. Melissa clicked this site and she clicked on maybe shoes, footwear. So the site will have that content and Melissa is interested in footwear. Now, how do we get better content of footwear to Melissa? So the cookies are like, they serve you with the right content in the future. So they're able to just track. So it's not a bad thing. Cookies are not bad. In fact, in the real world, cookies, if I come and say, Melissa, I have a cookie for you, wouldn't you like it? You take it, right?
Probably
So
I would want all the cookies in the jar.
Right. So the concept of cookies is just basically that it's able to kind of, I wouldn't want to use the word monitor, but it's able to tell your interest in the serving, and then they can give you a better experience based on your preferences. Right.
Also, is that why if I am constantly searching for, let's say, scholarships in master's programs, all of a sudden there's like ads on every site that I go onto that says scholarship, even if I've searched it a couple of times. And like you said, if I've been searching shoes, I'm suddenly with a lot of ads on shoes from everywhere.
Right.
That's my tailor-made experience.
Exactly. So there are other, dynamics in play where, yes, sometimes you visit a website, you search, and then all of a sudden you go to maybe Facebook and the exact things you were searching were there. Yes, this is made possible through cookies as well, because those are the content you have searched. It's able to tell that this specific person, this specific machine, end user has searched for these items, so they can tailor that for you. And it's also for user experience. All right, because every day it's evolving, the internet evolves. So they try to get you the best experience as a user on the service or on the internet. So yes, so that is just about but regarding caching, the word caching is a broad term in computing where, in fact, if you kind of use your maybe phone to go to Amazon, instead of you all the time, so what happens is this: the system or the app or the phone is able to cache your most frequent usage, in the sense that in memory of the phone, it keeps that very information elsewhere in what we call the cache memory. So anytime you visit, it makes use of that memory content instead of going to the main content. This is a bit technical, but in its rightful sense, we are actually using what we've been doing. So you cache it. It's back in what we call a storage location. And anytime the app wants to access it, doesn't go to the main storage location to fetch that. It just goes to the cache memory, or it goes to the cache location to get that. Yeah. Melissa, I hope we haven't lost you.
I think Melissa has an internet problem, so she it signed out suddenly. Maybe she will be joining soon. So meanwhile, like, you can see the questions in the chat section.
I have to check. I think I've also okay, yes. Give me one sec. So that's the question in A. Yeah.
Okay, Q&A
I think they said, yeah. So Juma was, how do we go about accepting cookies? I'm always okay. So I think I've talked about that. Now it says, thank you very much. How can I be able to delete my email account from a device of school computers being accessed by everyone who is that computer device? Okay, so I want to believe this question comes from someone who uses, so usually if you are in an organization where everybody logs in, I think the best thing is anytime you are logging out or signing off, so what happens is that once you sign off and even your name pops up as one of the account that has been logging, especially Gmail, Google will be able to tell you to re-enter your credentials. So yeah, sometimes you can add multiple accounts, but it's always good to sign off. But the first thing is don't be in haste and leave your computer, especially if you're in the school. Just sign off. Once you sign off, there's no way anybody can come and sit by it and have access to your information. They will be asked to re-log in your credentials. I don't think if that also answers that. Is there any advice about application that require national ID information, for example, cheaper cash? Okay, so I think the application that require national ID. I think for most of these applications we use, there are kind of policies and procedures that the application vendors put in place. So for instance, there are even services when you are to use, they request for your national identification because of the nature of that service. So for me, my advice is that whatever the application is, research on it and know that this application or these people who are rendering this application are trustworthy. Because sometimes you may not know where they are coming from. They might not be trustworthy. And when I say trustworthy, it's in context. So you can research more on them and to know that, okay, if I'm sharing this information, it is in a secured and safe hands, instead of just using and then sharing all your data across platforms on the internet. I don't know if I have touched base on that. What is remote desktop? And is there a way you can detect that someone is connected to your desktop? Yeah, so basically remote desktop is someone having access to your desktop. So here the person can have your terminals, the person can share your, see exactly what you see on your screen. But normally the idea of remote desktop is to assist you one way or the other. Maybe you are installing a software, or maybe you have an issue with your system. Someone will remotely log in. But don't forget, there are a lot of layers of remote desktop. What it means is that if someone is connected to yours, if you don't give them all the privileges, it's hard for them to even have. But of course, I think for remote desktop, it's kind of an agreement between you and the person who is having access to your service. But if it's the other way around remote, where somebody will have unsolicited access to your desktop, then that's another big case where they want to have infiltrate your data. That's a different angle, but usually remote desktop would assist the other person to help you real time with that challenge you have. And is there a way you can detect that someone is connected to your desktop? Yes, usually if someone is remotely connected using the real tool, right way, you can tell. But we have what we call key loggers and all that. Now, cybersecurity is big. Sometimes people have software that once you access through a phishing scam, you click, they're able to install softwares to your machine. All right, they're able to install softwares on your machine, and then they can take every stroke. So what happens is, if I am logging into a system, it will be giving that stroke of key entry to the person, and then the person can now go into and log in on his own side of the system. And so I would always caution that we should be careful of the applications we use, the attachments we click and all that. It's some of these tools and freebies that comes, or these emails we receive, unsolicited emails, spam emails, be cautious about them. Yes, and I'm also going to add a tool for us, a web-based tool for us, because that's going to take some time. So that web-based tool is able to analyze your entire system to see whether there are breaches, compromises, there are vulnerabilities and all that, to give you a detailed report. So I'm going to add that in chat. And then I think the last one comes from Silas. Let me see what we have. Please, I didn't get an explanation to the first part of the question when, okay. So I was actually trying to explain it, and it's a coin term. All right. And I'm not a chess player. I know, yes, there is that concept of pawn in chess, but I am not a chess player. But in the interest of internet, all right, So if someone is able to achieve their goal, intention, all right, now without not telling you. So for instance, as I said, you use a simple password, all right. Now I'm able to detect that, oh, your password to your application is 1, 2, 3, 4. I haven't told you I have it off head. Anytime I go there, enter 1, 2, 3, 4, I have access to your password. I have, sorry, to your system, to your email. That is a way to say you have been pwned. All right. So it's like you are not aware of it. All right. You are not aware of it, but then they kind of compromised the system. All right. So I don't know if that answers that, but it's actually a coined word. Since we know I'm not a chess fan, oh sorry, a chess player, but that's a coined word, right? Yes, Alpha. Hello.
Melissa is there.
Right.
I think
Melissa, welcome back.
Yes,
Thanks.
we answered the question. We see a raised hand from Silas.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Alpha, I don't know if you're able to unmute Silas' microphone in case he wants to speak.
I think
if not,
Silas,
maybe, yeah.
Silas,
Okay,
Silas,
he has typed in the Q&A.
I think if Silas, you want to pose a question to Mr. Chamba, then I think you are able to speak now because I can see you in the desktop. So if you still have question, just unmute yourself and speak with Mr. Chamba.
Hello, I think, hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, Silas, we can hear you.
Yes, I think my question has been answered. I was the one who asked about when an email has been pwned and then accepting cookies from other websites. I wanted to be certain they are safe to do that.
Okay.
And yeah, I got the explanation, the later information you gave about being pwned and then relating it to the game of chess. So I now understand.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Silas. Alpha, I'm not able to see the questions before my internet acted up, so I'm not sure if all of them have been answered. Otherwise, as it stands now, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A as well as in the chats.
So I think, Melissa, that's a quick one. Yeah, so I went through the questions and then we addressed some of them. Yes. Yeah, but I think in the answers, there is still, are there any harmful effects of cloud use gathering on people? Okay, so yes, so I think we looked at that earlier on. We looked at that. Okay, so as I said, Melissa, we are going to share with them a tool. In fact, in the script and that, we will share with them a tool, and then on their free time, they open their browser and then go through the tool. The tool will be able to analyze their system to check for vulnerabilities and all that. So if it will check for the criteria, then it matches, and then it goes. So if there are, loopholes and issues with the system, the overall system, to be able to give an extensive report and work. I actually wanted to add that but because it's going to scan your system, that's why I didn't bring that as part of the activity. But I think they will have that as well in the future presentation, what we call it, documentation we send to them.
Thank you so much, Reindolf. I've learned a lot of new words today. My mind is bursting, but so much information that I think we needed for our day-to-day lives, because we all use the internet and most of the times we're clicking and clicking with no full knowledge of what we're doing some of the time. So I'm really grateful for the participants that managed to join us today. I'm sure we've all had a very informative session. And if there are any questions, I would advise that we post them on our WhatsApp platform for Reindolf to answer in case something comes up and we've closed this meeting. And this recording will be made available both on WhatsApp and on our Facebook platform. So we should be able to continue the conversation on both those platforms over the next couple of weeks. And also, hope we'll see you in our next webinars that we have every month. I'm really grateful to those attendees that managed to come in today. I don't know if there are any last words from our presenter, but a very big thank you, Reindolf, for availing yourself to give us this webinar today, and excellent delivery, by the way. So, yeah.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, so my last word is that as we are creating our CBOs, NGOs, and all that, we should not be scared of cloud. We should embrace the power of it and then make use of it. In fact, the cloud is a pay-as-you-go service, and it kind of fits in everybody's pocket, everybody's budget. And so I think moving forward, as we create our organizations, our businesses, we should not be afraid to, as we said, move to the cloud. I mean, use services of the cloud. And regarding the security, I think we should be more subconscious about what we do, as we actually said in summary. We should not trust until it is supposed to be trusted, in fact, and that's it. We should be cautious out there. We should put up the best practices. I mean, the internet is vast with information and knowledge. We should keep our abreast with every day. We should read, at least get consent, because these are part of our everyday life, part of our new normal. Now we are in COVID. These organizations are working right from home, and we are going to be part of them. Now schools, students, we are all working from home. How do we make sure that we stay safe on the internet or on the cloud? Thank everybody for coming to me. Thank you.
Oh, wait, Reindolf, just let me keep you for one more second. It's something has popped into my head. So let's just say I've got material on my phone that I've deleted, and say they're backed up on Huawei Cloud or on whatever cloud I'm using, or in my Dropbox. Does that data disappear, or someone else can be able to retrieve those videos that I've deleted, or those pictures that I've gotten rid of? Are they gone when I delete them from my gallery, or they can still be retrieved?
Right, that's a powerful question. So when it comes to the cloud, the internet-based services, data cannot be lost until infinity, until end of time. If you press delete,
so we should be worried about our nude pictures that we take.
In fact, it's very important, very important, because once you delete, it leaves your service all right, it leaves your app all right, but back in the cloud, I know there are mirrors of these data. And once you delete, you tell yourself I've deleted it, but it's still there. It is just running some line of algorithm, some app on the server app there, and your data is back online. So even for the normal computer usage, they will tell you, yes, when your data is lost, we can recover. How is it possible? Because these are just numbers. So if I want to delete a data, I run some different hash numbers to corrupt it. But if I can have a way to another way to corrupt that number, I have your data back. Be very careful of what we do on the internet, because data doesn't get deleted. In fact, it's eons upon eons. Until, of course, maybe the entire data server is down, and there are classes, mirrors of these data servers. It's like one fail over, another one take over. So they are mirrors. So if you're talking about deletion, then maybe that's the end of the world.
Okay. Thank you so much, Reindolf. I will not be manufacturing any more questions at this point. To our participants, if no one else has a raised hand, I think that we will close our meeting now. The comments that I hear are that this has been a great presentation, and thank you so much for the delivery that you've given. So I think we'll close our meeting now. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.